Hi, I'm Din. It's me again. Today we're redesigning a character I made 16 years ago, all the way back in 2006 when I was creating my very first original characters. I grew up reading the webcomics Black Blood Alliance and Off-White, so I was very influenced by those comics, and also I just thought wolves were the coolest, and I still think that wolves are the coolest. You'll definitely have a sense of baby's first OC, I think, seeing this gal. So here she is. Please note that her artwork is MS Paint, because it's that long ago. Her name back then was Arika, which doesn't mean anything, I just made it up and thought it sounded very cool. So these are the designs I had. The earliest one is on the left, and the more recent one is on the right. You can see how I changed some things and I kept others. And I was looking at these images and considering what things I wanted to keep this time as well. And I really wanted to keep the hair falling forward because that's always what made Arika feel like Arika to me. As well as some kind of echo of the face markings because those were always really important to her design. And then the base color and markings, she's basically a black wolf. I really wanted to keep that as well, even though there will be some color variations in her coat. It should still be very dark. So first off, I just redrew her most recent design in my current style to get a bit of a feel for how she'd look today and how her current markings flow. The hair, as you can see, is less of a hairdo and more of just fur angled forwards, angling upwards and falling forwards, which is a design feature I like anyway, so that was easy to change from the get-go for the sketch. And I think she was pretty cute, but for the world building I have in mind, I know that A, her magical markings should all be red, so we'll be removing the yellow, and B, her markings overall, other than the magical markings, should be more realistic, but also a little bit more interesting to me personally. So I just duplicated that layer and then I started experimenting a bit on the copy. Just messing around, playing around a little bit. I knew I wanted to keep the red ear tips from her second design because I think they're a really nice accent. And I gave her red eyeliner to harken back to the yellow markings that she had. I did like the kind of weird wristband looking marking she had on the hind legs. But I know that doesn't make sense with my current style or with a more realistic seeming coat, so I just turned them into half socks to match the fronts. I struggled a little bit with chest fur, the marking of it. I wanted some kind of interesting starting point for the grayish color, but I was struggling with it because bringing the gray up to her face kind of took away too much from her initial design that I wanted to keep. So I just settled on a blunt start in the end. Then I gave her some placeholder runic markings, and I wanted to give her yellow eyes too, to reference the yellow markings that she doesn't have anymore, and to tie the yellow back in, so she still has the touch of yellow in her palette, because she's always had it. I also thought it looked nice and kind of fiery, this palette overall. So then I made a front view just to see how I liked it all together and to kind of think a little bit more about her design. So while you're looking at that, let me tell you about her. In her original story, she was a fire elemental, and I'm keeping that, hence the markings and the yellow eyes and the overall palette of her. Originally, I imagined that she had gone through some kind of space-time portal and she wound up in a world without magic. So in her own world, she was a very low-level elemental, not very good at all, and she was insecure about it. And then she wound up in a world without magic, and she's suddenly the most powerful magic user around, because there aren't any others. And then she was insecure about that instead. And she gets kind of adopted by this wolf pack, and she has to learn who she is in this entirely different context. I think the idea I was going for is that skill is very context dependent, and there's no like objective point to skill. But overall, this story, I never really finished it in by which I mean that I didn't even really have an ending figured out for this story. Like, I hadn't decided if she was gonna find her way home, or if she even wanted to, or what the repercussions would be that now there is magic in this world that doesn't have magic. I never even finished that train of thought, like, at all. Anyway, the fire elemental thing is really what I wanted to keep in her magical markings. So you can see me brainstorm a little bit here. The first mark there, the very sharp looking C, is the Elder Foothark rune for fire. And then the triangle is the witchcraft symbol for fire. And then I threw in 2 other runes I thought may suit her story. And I'm just trying out some fancy combinations of them to see what may work. I knew I just wanted the fire rune as a forehead marking, because that's simple, but it's eye-catching. You know, nothing too complicated. I also didn't want the shoulder symbol to be too busy either, which is why I'm going through a lot of iterations and variations. I'm a big believer in not making designs too complicated, because, you know, you're gonna want to draw them again and again, ideally. So I try to never overcomplicate things if I can help it, which is why I'm discarding some options and then keep going with other ones that I think will be simpler to draw. Of course, in the end, I just settled for the one I drew first as a placeholder anyway, which really goes to show that sometimes you just gotta trust your instincts and you wind up with something cool when you aren't even trying. But that's okay too, you know, whatever works. So then I'm drawing up her new reference, and while I'm doing that, let me tell you about her new story. I decided to rename her Ari, because I imagine wolves in this universe have quite short names, and a new name suits her upgrade. You know, it's like new design, new her, new name, why not? So Ari is still a fire elemental, like I said before. But this time it's not a normal thing to be a fire elemental, it's a special thing. So there are 4 clans of wolves, and there's 1 for each element. So we have fire wolves in the grasslands, water wolves on the shores, earth wolves in the woods, and air wolves in the mountains. And these 4 group of wolves, they're kind of like the rulers. In this world, there are no humans. So it's kind of Lion King-esque. You know, these wolves are the rulers, they are the ruling species, and everybody else just kind of accepts this. Don't think too hard about it. They're the main characters, so it's fine. And 1 wolf out of each group becomes the living representation of that group's element. And together, the 4 elemental wolves, they keep things in harmony and in check. And they also do things like make the seasons go by, and create weather events when, you know, for example, rain is needed. Then the air wolf and the water wolf may work together to create rain, and stuff like that. So being an elemental now is a job, and one you're expected to do and honor, and it's a big responsibility, and it's such an honor, but you're not, you know, you don't get nominated. You essentially are born with this power that you then have to use in certain ways. And this power gets reincarnated when an elemental dies. So then another fitting wolf is born, and that elemental is now alive again. It's given to, you know, by the whims of the universe, it's given to someone suitable. But they don't get reincarnated with memories or anything, so they have no instruction manuals for this. So Ari is a young and new fire elemental, and she's still insecure, because that's her character trait. There's more to her than that, but I wanted to keep that as well, that character trait, and the driving motivation for her being very internal, that she's trying to prove herself and she's trying to prove herself to others, and she's trying to live up to certain expectations and stuff like that. So she's still insecure. And she's heard such great tales of the fire elemental before her, and she doesn't know that she's up for this task, and she's still, kind of weak in her control of fire, and she feels like it's a struggle to understand the element, and she's not sure how to do this, basically, but she's doing her best, and I am very proud of her. It's kind of Avatar: The Last Airbender meets The Lion King and the Warrior Cats with a touch of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, except it's wolves. That's my pitch. I hope you like that pitch. And I hope you like how Ari turned out and her new look. I do hope to do the other elementals and talk a little bit more about my world building, if you guys would be interested in that. I do have an air elemental design from way back then that I can rework, but the other two, the water elemental and the earth elemental, would be from scratch. But that would be another fun, interesting exercise, so it's all good. I'll probably do them either way, honestly, because I've been thinking about how to make this story better for so long, and doing it on YouTube keeps me accountable. So, maybe I'll finally get around to doing something with these little guys. It is nice to be drawing wolves again. It's squarely back in my comfort zone. But thanks for watching, and let me know how you like her and what you think of maybe going with me on this journey, because I'm going anyway. But it would be pretty neat if we could maybe have a little bit of back and forth or something as the story gets worked out, because I haven't decided exactly what the story is going to be, but I have ideas, and it would be really interesting to have a bit of a dialogue, I think. Again, if you'd be up for that. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Bye!